The left looks at that gives them so much ammunition, right? It gives them so much ammo to be like, this guy wants to end the Constitution. He's a fascist, right? Like that's where their mind goes. And in some ways, I don't blame them, because if you're saying you want to end the Constitution, well, it's like, well, Christ, I mean, yeah, I mean, how else do you take that?
He's going through the legal channels of which he can challenge something.
I know, but okay, if let's say AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, let's say she becomes president in like 20 years, and she's trying to get rid of the First Amendment, okay? That's a legal channel that she can do. But I would look at that and I would say, man, the left needs to be more moderate, because that's fucking unhinged. How do you think they hear eradicate from public life entirely?
I mean, they probably imagine it to what happened to Charlie Kirk.
Exactly. Well, that's my point. Exactly.
Well, but see, here's the problem.
Exactly.
Why you want us to go back to when we were losing ground?
Okay.
We're gaining ground now, and you're upset with how we say things.
No,
but see, you were saying it the other way. We were losing ground.
We're going to do it at 4-minute openings. If you want to do less than a 4-minute, that's okay. If you've got it timed out and you're going to do 3 minutes and 30 seconds or 3 minutes, whatever. If you're going to do less than that, that's okay too. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. And the total debate is, I believe, 90 minutes, as we discussed.
Yeah.
Yep. So other than that, I think that's it.
All right. Okay.
So whenever you start talking, I will start the timer.
Okay. The Webster's Dictionary defines center-right as a political position which is always perfectly balanced, nuanced, and correct on every issue it holds stances on. But I don't need to rely on such a reputable source to make my argument. In the past 10 years, we've seen the Republican Party specifically and the conservative movement in general move further and further right. To be clear, I do not blame the shifting right on the right like any old good conservative lad. I blame it on the left. To quote America's sweetheart, Ben Shapiro, Trump is a symptom, not a cause. I think Trump in that sentence can stand in for a synecdoche for the American right in general. After the left decided to continuously move more to the left, from gay marriage should be legal to HRT and puberty blockers should be given to minors, from abortion should be safe and legal and rare under Clinton to there should be no laws governing abortion at all, from academia corrupted by postmodernism to academia becoming corrupted by postmodernism, all of the examples on the left stretched out the Overton window to their side while shuttering it down for those to the right of them. But while I don't blame the rise of Trump, nor the rise of the so-called alt-right, nor the rise of Christian nationalism on the right, due to the fact I see these rises largely reactionary to the nonsense the left has been doing for quite some time, I nevertheless believe it to be incontrovertible that the right in many ways has gone too far right and should become more moderate in this great country I call home, okay? I like the majestic pronghorn indigenous to the interior of Western and Central North America. My argument will be two-pronged. The right should be more moderate in its policies and actions, and the right should be more moderate in its rhetoric. Firstly is the policies. For policies and prescriptions, these can be divided into what the right pushes for with legislation and via executive orders, and what its citizens push for. As an example of the former, I'd bring up Trump's attempts to overturn the 14th Amendment in his bid to overturn birthright citizenship. For an example of the latter, that is, policies championed by individuals, I'd point to the oft-heard remarks that all trans people should be forcefully institutionalized in mental asylums. Thinking that literally everyone who decides they want to take steps to transition should be forcefully committed is simply a bridge too far and is a reactionary right-wing response in reply to the small subset of trans people who do have serious mental health conditions that put themselves or society at serious risk. Secondly, the rhetoric we see from the right also needs to become more moderate. Like my first point, this too is happening at both a governmental and a societal level. For examples of the former, we see with Trump's infamous Truth Social post where he said, and I quote, "A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution." Or his tone-deaf and inflammatory, albeit humorous, sharing of an AI video of him and Bibi Netanyahu drinking mojitos in the fucking Gaza Strip while Palestinian children dance as money falls from the sky upon them, the quintessence of dystopia. For an example of where this happens with society. We see conservative sweetheart Michael Knowles going to CPAC and saying that, and I quote, transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely. The whole preposterous ideology at every level. There is perhaps a steelman to what Knowles means here, and while I don't think he means it in a genocidal way, it's quite obvious that those words could lend themselves to a genocidal interpretation. So whether what Knowles has in mind is good or not, his rhetoric in that moment is irresponsible and inflammatory, and I see that happening on a lot of the right, and only serves to drive the right further into possibly actually dangerous territory. This conversation will probably shoot off in a number of directions, and I'm okay with that, but I hope we can begin with the points and examples I've said to hear why or why not Corey believes these are, in fact, reasons to believe the right should not become more moderate.
Perfect. All right. And you had about 10 seconds left, so perfect. On a 4-minute timer. Big Soda.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Big Soda. I'm here to convince you why the right shouldn't be more moderate in today's political landscape. I will keep it short by asking a simple question. If my opponent agrees the left has become more radical in this polarized political landscape, what is going to happen if a more radical right has to continue to contain a radicalizing left? And that will be my opening statement.
All right. That was about 25 seconds.
Yep. Short and precise.
All right. It's going to be pretty much open. So like I said before, just don't get where I need to be a weed eater and come in there and clear the brush.
Yeah, we'll find out. Okay, so Big Soda, I appreciate what you're saying, and I think I kind of mentioned this in my opening, but I guess I would say the further the right goes, if our goal as Republicans and as conservatives is to become more radical, I think that's just going to ramp up divisiveness. I feel like it's an excuse for the right on why we become more right, but it's not a remedy. It's not what we should be doing. Why do you think that that's what we should be doing? Do you actually think a response to the far left is for us to move further right? To me, that just seems like that'll just kill the whole country.
Well, I guess first I would have to see the evidence that we've moved further right, because from where I'm standing, it appears we moved further left.
Well, the leftists have. Do you think the Republican Party, or is that what you're saying? Do you think the Republican Party has moved further left?
I would say I would go beyond more than just my personal opinion that it's gone further left. I would say we see people like George Bush, we see people like Trump, we see people like Reagan who have slowly been shifting to a less conservative stance. Look at Trump as a prime example. 90 years ago, we would be calling him a Democrat. I think that most of the ideals that he holds is the same ideals that Bill Clinton held.
Right. I think that kind of plays into my point a bit, where Trump has become kind of this, even if it's not his disposition, he has taken on this Republican role and has pushed the party. Like surely you would say that like George Bush wouldn't have said that quote I said before about that everything can be overruled, including the Constitution. That's not a very right-wing thing to say. Bush wouldn't have said that. Reagan wouldn't have said that.
Bush did that. There's a difference between saying something and doing something. Bush did that.
Well,
Bush, multiple times ignored the Constitution.
Sure, but so did Obama, right? Like you could. What people do is one thing, but I think I would actually say in this case, even though it sounds counterintuitive, I would say to actually openly say the Constitution itself can be delayed, I think is more troubling than any action you take that some people could say, oh, that's non-constitutional. Because the fact that you're saying the quiet part out loud, you're saying like, I will do what I want, even if it's against the Constitution. And we see that with what I mentioned in my opening about the 14th Amendment, where it's like Trump is trying to do that. He's trying to get her done. And it's like, that is something that I don't know if you want to go into that, but like, that is something that is both in the amendments and with stare decisis with the Supreme Court, right? Like the precedent they've set over and over again, they've sided in the favor of jus soli, that is being born on the soil is what makes you different, which isn't true in every part of the Western world, but is true in America. So that to me is like pushing further and further to the right. It at least should be moderated, I guess, because you could maybe argue about what right wing means, but we should moderate that part, right? Well,
I guess express to me how it establishes that we're becoming more to the right.
Well-
Because to me, it seems like that's a leftist position. Whether leftists have generally been okay with kind of, especially in the more modern landscape of the political sphere, the left has been more willing to say, "Hey, this Constitution, maybe we can bend the rules."
I mean, can you give me an example, I guess, of a president in the last, let's say, 40 years that was from the Democratic Party that just flat out said, hey, we can go over the Constitution, we can suspend the Constitution. Like, again, I'm not talking like an action that you think is, but I'm saying
say or do, because I mean,
no,
we can focus on someone what someone says, but I mean, if you don't do it, what's the point of saying it? I mean, it's just words.
I know, but you get what I'm saying about saying the quiet part out loud. If you're that boisterous, like, I guess what this ties into in some ways the rhetoric angle. If you're like, Trump is like feeding into all of his base, right? He's like to some degree audience captured, right? And so he's sending this out. And so he's telling people like me, people like you, other Republicans, that like, yeah, the Constitution is less valid than what I am saying. And again, I'm pro-Trump, so I'm not like, I hold these things in tension, but I would say that should be something that should be moderated. So I guess, because that's the prompt, right? Should the right be moderated? That's something, at least would you agree on that point, Trump shouldn't have said that. He should have, whatever he was trying to say, he should have moderated his language to say something that wasn't as extreme as what he said, because I think that's damaging to the country.
Oh, well, okay. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, are there certain times where that's needed?
Overthrowing the Constitution? I mean, maybe in
well,
some
no, not overthrowing the Constitution, like nullifying the Constitution. Because if I don't directly remember the quote, but I'm not sure he said overthrow the Constitution.
I think
I'm pretty sure he said
suspend. I mean, I can read it. I can read it again if you want.
No, that's fine, because suspend's probably the better, I guess, the best word. Can you think of another president who's mentioned and talked about and did speeches on suspending the Constitution, or at least an aspect of the Constitution?
Definitely not. Maybe with your like last minute qualifier, definitely not with the Constitution writ large. I mean, that I can. If you have someone to quote, I would love to hear it.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure he referenced that talking about a specific action of the Constitution, correct? Not just generally.
No. Trump's Truth Social point was not about any specific. That's what troubles me. To me, again, Trump supporter, I think it's the most troubling thing Trump has ever said or written in his life. Is that one Truth Social post? I think it's absolutely un-American. I think it's unhinged.
Well, I'm pretty sure there's context to it, though.
There was no context to it.
I understand that you don't know the context.
No, I know the context.
No,
I know the context was that he was mad that he lost the election and he thinks it was stolen. He was saying it's such a big fraud that all stuff is inviolate. Everything, none of it matters. Even the Constitution itself can be suspended because it's been such a big fraud stuff. This was like in, I think, 2022. I think I didn't write down the date.
I think the post was a little earlier than that. I think it was 2021.
It could have been, but it was between when Biden. It was during the Biden administration. It was after Trump lost. I think it was post J6, and it was before Trump then won again. And okay, I'll read it just for clarity. A massive fraud, referring again to the swindling, as Trump sees it, of the election of this type and magnitude, allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Note, he's not talking about a specific amendment. He says all rules, regulations, and articles. And then he specifically says even those found in the Constitution. That's not talking about any
repeat the first part again, though.
He said a massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found
in the
true? Constitution.
If someone commits a massive fraud, such as, I don't know if we can say the voting and then fraud, if that is engaged in our Constitution, does it throw out all the rules of the Constitution?
I think there would have to. I think I could concede that there would have to be, if there was some extreme, let's say, like to not what we've seen with January 6th, not what we've seen with the Biden stuff. There's not enough evidence to support that, in my opinion.
Well, is he saying he's doing it, or like because
he's prescribing it? He's saying that this justifies it.
Well, I don't know. I think he's saying that action itself does that.
Right. So a massive fraud. Again, he's talking about about that he thinks the election was stolen. He says it allows for the termination of all rules and regulations, even those in the Constitution. He's not specifying an amendment. So do you think the 2020 election, do you think that allows for all of the Constitution to be thrown out? Everything?
I think if the left engages in that, yes, the left is throwing away everything inside the Constitution, and it is now nullified. And the question is the context of what he's saying. Is he saying this as this is what he is doing, or is he saying that the fraud itself is what does this?
I mean, he's saying that by the Dems, in his words, stealing the election, he's saying that it allows for him, and I think he doesn't say him.
He doesn't say him, though. You're adding the context of him.
Right, I am, but it I mean, what do we mean? Obviously, Biden was in charge at the time. Biden's not going to terminate all rules and the Constitution. So what does that mean? I think the entailment of that is that means when Trump is in office, he can kind of do what he wants. And again, Trump supporter here, but we do see that with him like overthrowing the 14th. That's the Constitution. And Trump looks at that and he's like, well, fuck that. I don't care about the 14th Amendment. If I don't like it,
has he done it though? He done it?
He's tried to the best of his ability. Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes. 100%.
In what aspect has he tried?
He literally did it by executive order. And then it was SCOTUS that has been like kind of going back and forth. And SCOTUS is like, well, you don't have I don't think they shut it down, but they like delayed it because of some other stuff. But yeah, no, Trump is trying to get that passed. That is like just boots on the ground fact. Trump wants and is trying and is actively doing everything he can to get rid of the 14th Amendment, to end birthright citizenship. We
wouldn't know until it reaches the Supreme Court and we see what the Supreme Court allows.
I
didn't even know this was in the, I guess, I know they've been talking about it, but I didn't know there was a specific case in which it's following up into the Supreme Court where there is.
Yes, there is. And Trump is doing everything he can. And
do you know the case number?
Or
do you know the general?
You have to give me a second if you
no, you're fine.
It up. So Trump did an executive order to end birthright citizenship, I think in August of 2025. And then it was challenged by the NHICS versus Donald J. Trump, challenging it. And then, so I think this all happened in late August. Then there was a temporary halt on it from SCOTUS. And so we don't have a deciding factor on SCOTUS. But I mean, and we can argue on if SCOTUS will rule on this or not. But the fact is, okay, yeah. So I have a link for you if you want to see it. But the fact is, Trump is trying to do this. And
okay. Yeah, so let's throw the link in the back chat if he wants to see it, and then he can kind of look at it as you go.
Yeah, let me, fuck. How do I get to the back chat of this? I've only been on the other end of this.
Click on that comments tab over there and
okay.
Should just be for us.
Gotcha. So this, wait, why is this saying add a destination to post comments? What the fuck? Skip destination for now. Now it's asking me to create a live stream. What the fuck? You know what? Fuck it. I'm sending it to you on DMs, Big Soda.
That's perfect.
For the sake of the debate, I'll take your word and we can engage as if everything you said is true. Because I guess my next question would be,
I'm sending it to you right now, just because I don't want you to think I'm like,
No, you're good. I trust you.
Okay, I sent it.
Okay, so you now have an example of Trump, I guess, challenging or trying to undo the Constitution. Yeah. How is this different from every president before him? And how does this make him more radicalized? Or I shouldn't say radicalized. How does this make him more right-leaning by doing this?
Well, I guess I would like, you're saying, how does it make him different from every president before him? Can you name a president in the past, 50 years that actually went to the Supreme Court to end a constitutional amendment? Like someone, not just like some we want to edit gun laws and stuff, which obviously the Dems do that all the time, which I disagree with. but like where they're actually like, we need to get rid of the Second Amendment. We need to get rid of this amendment. Like that, to me, that's unprecedented. I don't think we have seen that.
I would say we've had plenty of examples, and I would use the gun case alone, or the pow pow case alone, just because. I mean, you're saying, okay, the gravity is more severe because Trump. I wouldn't say. Okay, what's the best way to frame this? So you're saying Trump's is more severe because he wants to undo the whole 14th Amendment, but yet stuff like the ATF and all the actions taken by both Democrats and Republicans have, I guess, pushed back gun rights to a absurdity. And you're saying that Trump's is somehow greater?
Yeah, I would say it's a lot greater. I would say it's kind of the difference between, let's say, the DACA program versus like birthright citizenship, right? DACA, I think that's at least on the table, right? Are you familiar with all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the dreamers.
Right. The dreamers. Yeah. People that were, they entered the US when they were like below whatever the cutoff was, 12 or something. And so they didn't have, agency to enter. And, Obama wanted to give them citizenship, and then it went back and forth and all this stuff. And then, so that's one thing, because you could argue it's 14th Amendment adjacent, but at least that's kind of, I guess, what I'd use as an analogy to like California banning certain calibers of guns and whatever the fuck California does, right? Like that's not overthrowing the Second Amendment. That's like trying to nuance it a bit. And I still disagree with what some of these states do, to be clear. But with Trump, it's like he's trying to end birthright. He also already, I think, ended DACA, but that's like he wants to stop the whole amendment itself. Like that's a bigger bar, I would say, right? Like there's one thing to nuance an amendment and be like, this is my slightly different interpretation, because obviously the Second Amendment, right, there is a lot of give and take on like what does bear arms mean now. I mean, I think you were there, Big Soda, and you were there, and it's it's like we can debate all day about like what firearms are allowed or not, but like birthright citizenship, jus soli, is like you're born on American soil or you're not. It's kind of binary. So to want to go against that, to me, that's a far different bar than just like some states arguing over what specific guns and like if they have a AR style. Like, I agree it's all cucked, but like that's not the same as trying to overthrow the Constitution.
Well, I would argue, in my opinion, it's worse, being that this is a foundational principle that we use to protect all other rights. I would say any infringement on it is actually far greater than any infringement on any other right. But then I guess I don't want to delve too deep down that. I'll argue, is Trump trying to nullify the 14th Amendment, or is he trying to adjust who it applies to?
I mean, from what I've seen, he seems to, I would say, nullify it. I mean, I don't know. I struggle to think, maybe this isn't my poverty of imagination. I struggle to think who it would apply to if it's not people who enter the US and then give birth, because that's what the amendment is about, right? Is people that aren't citizens that give birth, their children are granted citizenship. Again, jus soli. This is like a big difference between like the West, the United States West, and then the European West, where they have like a different form, and they follow the blood. We follow the soil, right? This has been a long thing in history. And so to get rid of that, I think, is an example where, I guess, to tie it back to the prompt, that's an example where the right has gone too far on that. There, like, I guess, what would you say is the justification to kind of bring us back, the justification to remove that? Because my stance is that the right should be more moderate. Trump just shouldn't have done those things. Those are not moderate things. And if he moderated better, both, it would help conservatives, but it also helped the left, because the left looks at that gives them so much ammunition, right? It gives them so much ammo to be like, this guy wants to end the Constitution. He's a fascist, right? Like that's where their mind goes. And in some ways, I don't blame them, because if you're saying you want to end the Constitution, well, it's like, well, Christ, I mean, yeah, I mean, how else do you take that? I mean, he directly said it. So it's like, as a Trump supporter, it's hard to steelman those points, right? Trump has said some insane shit.
That kind of goes down the free speech argument, and so, but I will say,
not really, though.
It does. It does.
No, it doesn't. Trump is free to say it. My issue is that the Republicans should be more moderate. Just like my Michael Knowles quote, Michael Knowles is free to say that trans should be eradicated from public life entirely. He's free to say it from a free speech point of view. He just ought not to. He should be more moderate. So it's not a free speech issue. Both of these people are free to say it. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just saying that my argument is they shouldn't say it.
Well, I mean, you can say they shouldn't say it, but now we're in a situation where you're arguing that he shouldn't up in the 14th Amendment when it applies to a specific group of people. We're talking during pro-slavery time to give people who were advocated for as citizens, yet we're not giving the ability to act as citizens. We're talking people who had voting power in the system, but was so suppressed that it counted as 1/4% of an actual person. These are people who had long generational lines inside American history. And now you're saying this should also apply to someone who sneaks into the border and then has a child, and that child should be allowed to have citizenship just because of something that applied 1,800 years ago. I think Trump has a right to challenge that.
Yes,
I think he's going. Hang on. I think he's going through the legal avenue in which to challenge it. I think it's fair for Trump to say, "Hey, I want to nullify this." And if the Supreme Court says no, just like every other Supreme Court case, if they say no, then Trump abides. But we haven't seen that with other presidents. We have examples like Joe Biden, where the Supreme Court told him no, he cannot relieve student debt, and he turned around and did it anyway. And so we have examples of other presidents doing unconstitutional things and saying, fuck it, I'm going to try and get around it. Or I'm just going to do it and it be damned. And then we have Trump, he goes out and says something unconstitutional and then tries it and then get shut down by the Supreme Court and have he give up on it? That's what we've seen throughout Trump's administration.
Okay, but I would say the attempt to do it again. So Biden, I think we're making a bit of a distinction here. You can make an order that is, you could argue, is anti-constitutional, right? Like SCOTUS, the history of SCOTUS bears this out, right? There's been a lot of like pornography cases that have been decided in SCOTUS of if something is First Amendment speech or if it counts under obscenity laws. I wouldn't say anyone who's challenging that is trying to go against the First Amendment. They're trying to like flesh it out. But Trump is directly going against the 14th Amendment. So with like Biden with student loans, what amendment? He's not trying to overthrow an amendment. I mean, the 14th Amendment is like very clearly about like the jus soli, birthright citizenship. And he wants to go through that. And if you want to take it from an originalist point of view, that's fine. But we have like a bunch of stare decisis, aka precedent from SCOTUS, that has reaffirmed throughout the decades that that is what it means. If you are born on American soil, you are an American citizen. So it's not just about the Constitution. It's about how SCOTUS, at least that's my opinion. You can if you disagree with me, let me know. But I'm an originalist, but I also look at stare decisis to see like how has this actually been worked out with precedent and practice. And SCOTUS has done a good job in, I think, protecting the 14th Amendment and protecting the First Amendment and doing all that stuff. And I don't agree with every other decisions, but that's how it kind of works. So to punt back to slavery, it's like, I think that's a bit of a unfair example because again, that would be denying all of the stare decisis that happened after that into the modern day of what the Supreme Court has decided on what that means.
Well, okay. So you want to stay out on this limb that Trump is the only president who's gone against a constitutional amendment. And
I think
that
Trump is the only one who's tried to quash a constitutional amendment. Not just like again, I mentioned the obscenity laws. There's been a lot of stuff with like the First Amendment.
Correct? You said suspend. That's the framework that's the argument you use. Suspend, sure. Correct?
Yeah.
What about habeas corpus?
What about it?
Abraham Lincoln, before the Congress voted on it, Abraham Lincoln enacted habeas corpus, in which he used that to arrest citizen journalists, Maryland legislature, and other people who were supportive to the Confederacy.
Look, but I feel like that's. I kind of thought this was coming. The fact that you have to punt so back, like centuries into American past. I mean, like the American founding obviously is crazy. Like I'm anti-insurrection now, but America's founded on insurrection. I mean. So if you want to go back that far, it's like, sure, but that's not what I'm talking about. The prompt is, should the right be more moderate now? Oh,
so you're appealing to the. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say you guys are kind of getting off into the weeds of like off the topic. It's not what it was, it's what it should be. So, the moderate, the right should be more moderate, not was, or, so I know it's very interesting and I love hearing about it, but we're kind of going into the past further and further as we go. So
we'll eventually get to prehistoric times, AGRILEPOLIS. Okay. But okay, that's
like
fair.
When I was born.
That's perfectly fine, because I think we were just going back and forth.
Right. Yeah. So
That's
what's,
good.
I guess, why I would say to bring it back, I would say what Trump did in the modern time, that is something that he shouldn't have done. He should have been more moderate. If he wants to say, there's a way to say his Truth Social posts that could make sense. And this ties into what I was talking about, both policy and rhetoric. There's like, this would tie into the rhetoric point of view, but also the policy with the 14th Amendment, right? He shouldn't have done the 14th Amendment thing. And he should have rhetorically, he shouldn't have posted that stuff on Truth Social. And I guess if I could ask you, just like to kind of like, to just get on the same page, do you think at least the second thing I mentioned from Trump in my intro, the Trump Gaza #1, again, funny video, very funny. Do I want to see that from my president? No. And I'm sure you've seen that video, Big Soda.
Yeah, I think I believe, yes. I've seen a standstill photo of that video. I haven't seen the video itself.
Okay, well, the video is ultra dystopian. Like I said, Palestinian children with money floating all over their heads while Trump and Bibi drink, alcoholic beverages on the beach, the Riviera of the Middle East and all that. You have to admit that's bad that's bad rhetoric, right?
I mean, yes, we can whine about rhetoric, but it's kind of the status quo. You're not saying anything he's done distinctly different. The two arguments that you've made have been pretty much, well, line in line. The first argument would be, well, this president, to say that he may be able to do this. That's why the Supreme Court has been dwelling on it. The second one would be, well, he's just continuing the status quo.
No. My first argument is that Trump is doing something that SCOTUS will never agree to. Never agree to.
How do you know?
I mean,
they haven't ruled on it.
Yeah, well, I guess this is my Confluence opinion that everyone can fact check later. Okay, this is my prophecy, I guess. SCOTUS will never they will never take away the 14th Amendment. It's not going to happen. It's like if Trump tried to repeal the 19th. It's never going to happen. There's just certain things that SCOTUS, that I trust our institutions in. I trust our checks and balances. The point is, Trump is doing something that, again, you haven't been able to give me an example of a president that has gone against an amendment with such ferocity. Like,
okay, you're adding subjective language to it. No, I've given you a prime example. Well, veracity, that's just your opinion.
No,
that's an adjective. It's
an adjective. An adjective doesn't mean it's an opinion. An adjective.
Yeah, well, yes. It means it's subjective. It means, okay, it's veracity to you. It may be, he's going through the legal channels of which he can challenge something.
I know, but okay, if let's say AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, let's say she becomes president in like 20 years, and she's trying to get rid of the First Amendment. Okay, that's a legal channel that she can do. But I would look at that and I would say, man, the left needs to be more moderate, because that's fucking unhinged. She's trying to get rid of the First Amendment. That's crazy. Right? And so I feel like, to be consistent, I have to look at Trump and look at him trying to get rid of an amendment and be like, that's also crazy. It's the fucking Constitution. You don't touch that shit. That's America was founded thereon. Like, you don't fuck with that. Right? Like, what would be your answer to that?
Not to go down the long track of history, but that's American history. Like,
we're talking in the modern day. Like, with my AOC example, you'd agree. If AOC, that is within her legal rights to petition the courts, she could, by executive order, if she's president in some, unforeseen, God-forsaken timeline. Let's say she is president, right? And she tries to get rid of the First and Second Amendment. Right? I don't care if she succeeds or not. I would still look at AOC and be like, holy shit, you should be more moderate. And can we do that on the right? Can we look at Trump and be like, Trump should be more moderate on the 14th Amendment? Like, is that a big ask?
You have to show me why that's right. You have to show me why that's the opposite of moderate. Because if we're talking moderate conservatism, what the modern conservatism has done is it's allowed this. It's made this the status quo of challenging the Constitution, of allowing things that are unconstitutional to happen. And so if you're trying to argue we need to be more like that, then no. But that's moderate conservatism right now.
Well,
because
no,
that's the status quo. That's what you're conserving.
Okay, but I'm not saying, and I mean, we talked about this briefly in DMs, right? Where I said I'm not a rhino. I'm not saying that we should become all Liz Cheneys. Okay, I'm saying that the right needs to moderate its language. Okay, and maybe I don't know if we can. I don't know if you'll allow me to pivot into this, but I honestly think this would be an interesting discussion. So like Charlie Kirk, Michael Knowles, Ben Shapiro. Okay, those the kind of conservative talking heads. I like them all. Okay, I've watched uncountable hours of each of them, but I would say, so I do like them. I'm not throwing any shade against them, but like some of their rhetoric, like I quoted in my intro, and I could pull it up again about Michael Knowles. This is I don't have it in front of me. I could pull it up, but just if you trust my remembrance, right? Trans ideology should be eradicated from public life entirely. The whole ideology, right? That's kind of the gist of what he's saying. And I could pull up the direct thing if you want. That kind of stuff is, would you agree that doesn't help anybody? First of all, that hurts, and maybe the right doesn't care about this, but this hurts, this would hurt actually trans people, right? Like, for one, because whether or not Michael Knowles means it, people interpret it. I've talked to real life trans people who see it as genocidal, right? But it also, I think, hurts the right, because then it makes the right be like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, brother. Yeah, that's what we should do. We should eradicate. And no one's smart enough to know what eradicate means. Or like Michael Knowles is a smart guy, so he knows what he's saying. But the average American hearing that stuff, they're just like, how do you think they hear eradicate from public life entirely?
I mean, they probably imagine it to what happened to Charlie Kirk.
Exactly. Well, that's my point. Exactly.
Well, but see, here's the problem.
Exactly.
It's their side that's doing it. That's the problem. You just described. We want to get rid of the ideology. Well, guess what? They want to take us out. They don't care about the ideology. Right, the ideology doesn't matter. So you're telling me we need to be more moderate, but yet all we're saying is, hey, this ideology has to go. It's dangerous. And it is. It's very dangerous.
I know, but I feel like you're slightly kind of pivoting a bit. I feel like you might even agree with me. Do you agree with when Michael Knowles goes on a CPAC stage? Do you agree he could use maybe better language to convey what he's saying? And it wasn't just when he got called out and people said, hey, this sounds genocidal, he doubled and tripled down, and he said it like a week ago. He still is committed to the eradicated. Do you agree eradicated to the average person can kind of sound genocidal, just rhetorically, right? I guess that's what I would say. Why not moderate your language? Why not say, hey, I think what we think about men and women, I think we need to cement that into law. I think XX women and XY men, they should be distinguished legally. I'm fine with that. Okay, God bless you, Michael Knowles, go off. But when he's saying trans ideology should be eradicated, why pick that word? That's what I'm saying. We need moderation. It's too extreme.
The problem is,
it lends itself to genocidal talk. It just does.
The problem is that's how it started. It started with us saying, hey, men shouldn't be in women's bathrooms. Hey, these people shouldn't be teaching my children. And now it's gotten to a point to where we have a fellow advocate of trans ideology who preached trans ideology kill someone that we hold dear to our community. And so I don't quite understand why you want us to go back to when we were losing ground.
Okay,
we're gaining ground now, and you're upset with how we say things.
No,
but see, you were saying it the other way. We were losing ground.
No, this is this is a hard convo to have. So forgive if I say wrong words, because I don't, because I'm a big fan of Charlie Kirk. Okay, obviously,
express yourself.
Okay, I'll go into my fifis for a second. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Kirk, right? Was very distressed when he exsanguinated out of his neck. I think that was horrific, right? Did not like it. And I like Charlie Kirk just dispositionally. I like him, and he's on my side, so I also like him. But when when I've heard in my personal life, this is anecdotal, I'll admit it, but I've also seen it on, many TikToks and Blue Skies and all this stuff. When I hear trans people talk about how conservatives, they want to put us in camps, they want us to die. I've heard that from both people in my personal life, I've heard that from people online, and I don't think, I guess, Michael Knowles saying that we should eradicate trans from public life, I don't think that helps that. So I'm not like blaming Michael Knowles, to be clear, on like what happened with Kirk. But there is an amount of like, why raise the temperature of the room so hot to where trans people think that they're actually, because I've talked to so many trans people that actually think they're going to be put in camps. I think that's delusional, okay? But that's what they think. And I think it could be helped if the right was a bit more moderate and talked to them sensibly. And we're like, no, that's not what we mean. We just think like, you shouldn't like give puberty blockers to minors, and you shouldn't have HRT, and like you have these like legal stuff between XX and XY. There's like a way more nuanced way to say it, and instead they don't. And I think that's the kind of shit that like makes people feel crazy and just raises the temperature.
See, the problem with that is, well, they feel they're going to get genocided. Well, we're actually seeing Republicans get genocided. We're actually seeing conservatives get genocided. We're seeing people who are wearing MAGA hats get genocided. We are seeing, they've been calling us the Yahtzees. They've been calling us fascists. They've been calling us all derogatory names. And you keep talking about, we need to be more moderate. No, we are on the winning side of the culture. We are making grounds in the culture. We are starting to bring back Christian ideology. We're seeing it in the youth. We're starting to bring back things that we hold dear. And the moment that we start bringing these values that we hold and we have power, you're saying, hey, we need to be way more moderate. Well, guess what? When we were moderate, we were losing so much ground.
No, I want to push back. When I say moderate, again, this is why I'm not a rhino. I don't mean some like effete form of like cucked conservatism. I emphatically do not mean that. I mean being honest and being able to convey your points without kind of sparking the other side to do possible violence. Like Michael Knowles could have said a very strong condemnation of what he sees as like, the whole like trans ideology without saying that they should be eradicated. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying like the words we say are not good. The policies, again, the 14th Amendment, these are not good. I'm not saying that we should let off the gas. I'm saying we have to nuance what that gas does, right? We have to acknowledge that like certain things are going to inflame certain people, even if it's not intended, right? Like you have to admit, Michael Knowles saying that. Again, I've personally talked to people. Again, it's an anecdote, but it's like I personally talked to trans people are like they saw that as like Michael Knowles is calling for genocide. And I'm like trying to explain to them, I don't think he's actually calling for that. He's trying to say that. But I'm just saying from their point of view, that's how they feel. And then if I like put myself into Michael's head, I'm like, well, why say it in that way? So that's the rhetoric side of things. Like I'm not saying to like be a cucked conservative, but I'm saying why couldn't Michael Knowles, he's got a big platform and he's repeated this multiple times, right? Why not just say something that's more nuanced, that's more like precise, instead of using words like eradicated, which does evoke thoughts of genocide. I mean, even to my conservative mind, if you talk about eradicating someone, it's like, holy fucking shit. And would you disagree with that?
What do you do with dangerous ideologies?
It depends on what the danger level is.
What do you do to Yahtzee ideology?
It depends on the danger level.
It depends. No, you eradicate these dangerous ideologies from society.
No,
yes,
you don't.
do.
No,
you do.
No, Big Soda. With all due respect, if because that's what the left uses to get rid of people like Sam Hyde and Nick Fuentes and Gavin McInnes. And anyone that is kind of like slightly alt-right, they say, hey, you're a Yahtzee, we have to get rid of you. So that's dangerous. That's a dangerous line to go down, in my opinion, because that's what the left does all the time. They say you're a dangerous thing, we need to eradicate you. So I don't want to see conservatives doing that. I want to see conservatives being more moderate. The left is the party of the fucking unhinged, okay? And I don't want the right to be the party of the unhinged. I want the right to be the party of we have nuanced discussion. The Charlie Kirks of the world, where he wanted to talk. He wanted to like do stuff, right? I love Charlie Kirk, right? But there's good ways to say things and there's bad ways to say things.
And why can't he do no more stuff?
Because someone fucking shot him.
Why?
Because the left wing is insane.
And now you see, I'm starting to notice a problem. Me and you have two different ideas on what the prompt is. When I hear the right should be more moderate, what I'm hearing is they should be more moderate in their ideology. And I think what you mean is they should moderate what they say. And see, I'm not worried about what they say. I'm worried about what they do.
Well, to clarify, my prompt was twofold. I think it's rhetoric, which is the Michael Knowles kind of example, and it's policy, which would be the 14th Amendment example. So I think Knowles, he's not doing policy. I think Michael Knowles, I think that is disastrous. I don't want to say it could lead to Charlie Kirk's death because I don't feel comfortable saying that. And I wouldn't put that on Michael Knowles. But I do think there is this atmosphere that's been created that trans people, for whatever reason, think that they're going to be put into camps, okay? And we should try to dissuade them from thinking that, because we're not trying to put them into camps. At least I'm not. But then I hear also rhetorically, I hear some people on the right say that we should put all trans people into asylums. I don't know what your thoughts on that, Nick Soda, are.
So, I mean, I know we're almost 40 minutes in, but I just want to make sure we have this clear, though. The right should be more moderate. We mean moderate like all avenues, certain avenues. I mean, because
I could go with his definition of kind of it being a twofold thing of not only action but rhetoric. Okay. I just want to make sure that that both of us were aware of that. Well, what I'll say with that is you're advocating for us to go back to what we were saying in 2015, and the problem with this is this ideology has become so much more dangerous to now you're saying, hey, we got to make sure the trans people know we're on their side. Well, guess what? I'm not on the side of that ideology. I'm not saying I want to take their rights away or
do you want them to be eradicated?
I want their ideology to be eradicated. Yes.
And do you think that's the best word to use if you're a public figure?
I think the eradication of dangerous ideas is the best word to use to explain, hey, I just watched on film one of my moderate, who I would describe more moderately than me, conservatives get unalived. And now I'm watching people all over social media, people who are also in that ideology, laugh. And no, that is not okay. And you're now asking me to be more moderate and to think about them. And no, that ideology shouldn't exist.
I am because Corey, I feel like this cuts both ways, and this is what I feel like both sides don't get. It's like we've all heard the rhetoric of like punch a Nazi, or sorry, a Yahtzee, right? We've all heard that rhetoric. That is a terrible thing to say, because the problem is it's not just Yahtzees that are getting punched. It's people that are like slightly like an Admiral Gibbs type. People could call him Charlie Kirk. People called him a Yahtzee, right? So he can get punched. So it's like, to me, what you're saying is the right wing equivalent of the left wing saying, oh yeah, punch a Yahtzee. It's like, you're not being nuanced enough. You're not being specific enough. And that will cause hyperviolence to explode in a culture. That will cause, like when Michael Knowles says trans should be eradicated, and if you're saying that too, I mean, you have to be careful, I think, because what does the average person take away from that? Just like when some like big left-leaning thing says to punch a Yahtzee, it's like, well, it depends who you count as a Yahtzee. To some people, Ben Shapiro is a Yahtzee. To some people, probably I'm a Yahtzee. You know, like it's to some people, you Big Soda are a Yahtzee. Like, so it's a dangerous game to play, and it cuts both ways.
But yet I haven't advocated for punching or any type of violence toward this ideology.
No, but you've advocated for the eradication of trans ideology.
Yep.
And do you understand how that, at least rhetorically, because now we're in the rhetoric side of things, do you get how rhetorically that could sound like something bad to trans people?
No, because they said the exact same thing when I told them they couldn't go into women's bathrooms or men's bathrooms of the opposite sex. They said that I was erasing their existence, that I was trying to destroy their identity and all this other stuff. So no, there is no difference all the way back. Well, we'll keep it in the modern sense, but in 2015, they were saying the same stuff. In 2016, they were saying the same stuff. They've continued to say the same stuff. So why would I go back to being moderate when I was losing ground instead of being more radicalized to my ideology? and to protect it from something that is threatening it.
I guess, Big Soda, do you think that trans shootings have gone up in the past, let's say, 4 or 5 years?
I mean, I don't know. Do we have the data to prove it?
We do have the data, and they have gone up. Okay.
But, I mean, are you sure? Are you sure this is something that hasn't been hid from the media, or there could be no possible clue?
This is for sure.
Okay, cite it.
See
that, because I kind of knew this is the avenue that we were going, because we don't know if it's increased.
No, it has. It has. It's just I can't give you. The reason I know is because I've gone to the gun registry, the fucking databases of like the mass shootings, and I've compared. I've looked at the causes, but there's no study because I think I don't want to get too conspiratorial, but a lot of stuff is like hidden and stuff, you know. But I've gone and I've looked at the amounts of like casualties over 5 people, and I've compared it to the amount of trans people. I've done it to the per capita, but this is all personal research. Yeah, I can't give you a source on this. I'm just saying in the past 5 years, trans shooters have gone up. I don't think anyone would actually disagree with that, though. I don't even think the left would probably disagree with that.
The simple fact you can't prove it, because we know that they've been hiding data. We know that they've lied about the motives of shooters.
What do you think, brother? Do you think they're lying in the why? I feel like, how are you not agreeing with me? They might be lying in the opposite direction. They're not going to lie. You think they're lying to protect the trans people, or sorry, you think they're lying? No, sorry, I meant to say the opposite. You think they're lying to not protect the trans people? If anything, you're on my side even more.
I'm saying I don't know if it's any more prevalent than from the 2015 to 2020. Like you're saying the last 5 years, I don't know if it's any more, I guess, prominent. It could have been happening at the same rate. It's just we don't know.
It's not. You
could say it's not, but unless you're able to provide a source, it's just your opinion.
It's not my opinion, okay? I mean, again, it just would be too long for this debate to like, because again, I had to go through like the ATF statistics of mass shootings and like it's a long process. But you don't have to trust me. But it's weird that you disbelieve me, because I feel like this plays into your hand in a way. I think it's obvious from most people that they would agree that per capita trans shooters have gone up. That's just like, that's on its face true, and it's statistically true. And I can't give you a source because no one wants that, but you know.
Let's say for sake of argument, and we can kind of venture down one route and then the other. Let's just say he takes your word for it, and then let's just say he's calling you a fucking liar. But let's go down both routes, but not too far, and let's see what happens.
Sure.
Let's
say
we've got time, because you guys are only 45 minutes in, so you've still got a while.
Good. We'll do the first route first. Okay. Let's say you are telling the truth, and then I would say, well, wow. Their ideology is becoming even more radical, to the simple fact that the moment we told them no, they're upping their situation to where they feel more and more threatened. And now the media is lying to them, telling them that we're threatening them. So the entire time we have not been threatening them. We've been telling them no on the political front. Really? And now they feel threatened. Yeah.
That's all. That's what you're saying. You think we've just told them no on the political front. So again, you don't think Michael Knowles saying we're going to eradicate
When did he say it? When did he say it?
He said this in CPAC. I don't know the year, but it doesn't matter, because he said it again a year later. He said it again. He said it last week. He says it all the time. He, even though people have told him, because I could excuse it as kind of like a misspeak, right? Like I fucking misspeak all the time. I say stuff I don't mean constantly, but he has doubled, tripled, quadrupled down on us. Michael Knowles is like hell bent on saying this statement, this inflammatory
statement. So he said it in the last 3 years. So you're telling me he started saying this in the last 3 years? Well, I'm telling you, if we look at the last 10 years, it's evident. It starts with, okay, they want some type of political power, and I don't mean that kind of as in, they want dominance over people. I'm saying they want the ability to go into the opposite gender's bathroom. They want the culture to accept them for how they are. And when we said no, what happened? Oh, well, it drug out this whole lawsuit. The media was talking about it, how Republicans don't believe trans people exist, and all this other stuff of how we're suppressing their rights. And then you're telling me in the last 3 years, Michael Knowles saying something is supposed to be a definitive statement for the last 10 years of rhetoric from them.
Well, I think I don't know the date, Michael Knowles. I think it was like probably 5 years ago, but that's just a guess. I'd have to look up the CPAC. He originally said it at CPAC, I think around 5 years ago in 2020. I think, I'm not sure, but I'm saying we've seen in the past 5 years. Again, this is supposed to be if we agree that trans shootings have gone up in the past 5 years. I would say I would never blame Michael Knowles for this, to be clear, because I think that's cucked. But I also think it doesn't help to put people who already feel marginalized, whether they are or not, they feel that way, and to then talk about eradication. It's bad rhetoric. It's a bad rhetorical strategy. And so that's when I say the right should become more moderate. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. There's ways to say that, like what you said, Big Soda, about like what you just described about how, like, okay, men and women's locker rooms and all that. That's the nuanced stuff. But just saying, oh, all transgenderism, it should be eradicated. That's a sweeping, broad statement that doesn't need to be said. That just furthers the temperature. It just fucking makes everyone feel unhinged. Not a good idea.
Okay, that's perfect. So during that time period where we were saying no to the bathrooms, were we winning or losing culturally? Was our ideology getting implemented, or were we having political power to say, hey, this is not acceptable? Were we winning or were we losing? Because I'm pretty sure we were losing. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of lawsuits around the country that show that we were losing.
And do you think it was the Michael Knowles of the world talking about the eradication of trans ideology? Do you think that's what fixed it?
No, I'm saying people got tired of it.
I know, but I feel like we're kind of talking past each other. I'm saying that rhetoric doesn't help. I'm not saying, like, there's two sides of this, right? There's like, and I said this in my opening, that the left has gone more and more extreme, and that causes the right to be reactionary and then go extreme in their own ways. But I'm saying, I want to hear, like, what would your steel man be of Michael Knowles saying that line? And I know we're kind of like maybe going into that specific example, but I've heard that from other conservatives too about that same type of thing, where it's like, why not just be a little bit nicer but still hold strong on policy issues? Why not avoid something that could be perceived as genocidal if you want to make a good, cogent political point, right? Like, what is the advantage of dragging up fucking, eradication? Why use that word? That was an intentional choice by Knowles. That's what bugs me about him. And I love Michael Knowles, but, like, why choose that word?
I guess to stillman his point, because this ideology has become so dangerous that it's literally threatening conservative lives. It's no longer an ideology versus ideology battle. It's now become a violence battle.
Okay, but what do you think the effect of rhetoric is on the public consciousness? Because Michael Knowles isn't saying this to Congress. He's saying this to the American people. He said this at CPAC, and he said it multiple times since. So it's people like me. It's people like any average American, right, listening to this. What do you think they hear, right? What are they taking away from this? Again, if this was an impassionate speech to Congress, that's one thing. This was an impassionate speech to people. So now me, as let's say I'm a retarded conservative, and I'm like, oh yeah, trans people should be eradicated. Like, that's not a hard jump to make, right? Like, especially, like, people's reading levels aren't that great, right? So if you hear your favorite conservative talking head saying that, you don't think Michael Knowles has an onus to maybe be a little bit more moderate in how he speaks.
Do you have examples of conservatives going out and the increase of trans violence?
Yeah. I mean, I do. I mean, the stat, I'd have to, if you want an actual source, I'd have to, like, find one. But no, this is a well-known thing. I mean, I don't think anyone would disagree with me on this, that trans people are susceptible to way more violence than like.
No, political violence, not just violence, political violence.
Well, that's hard to separate, right? Like, political is tough to say. My argument would be that, like, if I hear this from Michael Knowles, I might, let's say I see someone who's trans and I'm, like, angry. Well, I might go out and do some, like, misdeed against them. And that wouldn't be categorized as political violence, but it's like, it's because I heard from Michael Knowles that they should be eradicated that it puts that thought in my mind, and I'm like, oh yeah, and you can see this in, I guess, to if you'll allow me maybe to pivot, if you want to keep talking about Knowles, we definitely can. I'm not trying to, like, pivot from it.
No, you're good.
But it's like, okay, good, okay, thank you. I appreciate the good faith. I'm not I'm not trying to run from something, but I just wanna I want to hear your thoughts on this. Like because I think all of this stuff kind of builds into what we see now in a conservative kind of echo chamber where people, and I don't know what your thoughts on this. This is what I mentioned in my opening. A bunch of conservatives say that all trans people, anyone who think they're the opposite gender, they should be 5150'd. They should be put into mental asylums automatically. Just they're insane, and so I see this as a bleed down. You see this as a bleed down from the top. You see this from the president, from conservative influencers. Then it gets to the people, and people are like, yeah, we should lock all of them up. I've had debates with this. I've had debates on Grid. I've had debates on other people's channels. I think that's crazy. I mean, what's your stance on that? Because I would say that's a thing where we need to fucking tone the temperature down and be more moderate.
Well, I mean, you have to give me an example of someone in political power saying that we need to lock these people up.
No, but that's not my no. I've kind of moved down. I'm saying
Okay.
so we go from like what the president says, and then we go to let's say a Michael Knowles, who's not in political power, but he's a conservative talking head. And I said, so I'm kind of moving from there to
but Michael Knowles,
average person.
has Michael Knowles said that we need to go around locking up all trans people?
But he's
Or is he talking about the ideology and how the ideology needs to be removed from American politics?
No, he kind of has said the latter. I don't have a quote off the top of my head. I listen to a lot of Michael Knowles, so I know he's.
It's kind of something to where, I mean,
because he's anti cross-dressing. He thinks that should be punished under obscenity laws. So I mean that basically takes away most trans people right off the bat.
I mean, like I said, I guess I don't really watch a lot of Michael Knowles, so I don't know what he says, but I don't necessarily think that just because Michael Knowles said his opinion means that we're becoming more or less moderate than we were inherently. But I would say that when battling the trans ideology, I don't know how we can remain moderate and defend our ideology against something that's becoming more radicalized.
Well, I feel like I could tell you that. Like, do you think you have to say that every trans person? And again, I actually don't know your opinion on this, so this is an honest question. Do you think every trans person should be institutionalized? Do you think that?
Did you cut out?
Maybe. Sorry, did you not hear my question?
It went a little quiet.
Oh, sorry.
I heard the what.
Okay, I said, do you think that every trans person should be institutionalized?
Do I think that? No.
Okay, so you're kind of on my side where you would see that as like that's kind of going too far.
Well,
right?
Well, I would say locking up people without due process it goes against their rights. Yes, I would say that anyone advocating for that should not advocate for people to go around and get arrested.
But you understand that there's been a lot of right-wing people that do advocate for that. I've been on a lot of debate panels, again, including Grids, including Emmett's, where they say they should all be locked up, bar none. They're all insane. They don't see reality. They should be locked up.
Yes, but it's one of those examples. How many people are being hyperbolic to a reaction to a dangerous ideology that is threatening them?
I've pressed these people. I don't think they're being hyperbolic. I mean, I'm asking them, do you truly think this? I'm bringing up counterexamples. They want this. This is the kind of thing when I say, to go back to the prompt of the right should be more moderate. Even in these kind of like panel spheres, I feel like the right should be more moderate, because I don't like that. Like on Grid and Emmett's panel, it's like the vast majority of the opinion of the panelists and chat is that anyone who claims to be trans should be 5150'd. Like, to me, that is insane, and we need to moderate from that. So even from the presidential view to the Michael Knowles of the talking heads to the people themselves, it all kind of trickles down. We need to be more nuanced. There are, again, I think I said this in my opener, that there are some like trans people that are like insane, right? Like it's what was that guy? What did he say? He said it's ma'am, in the GameStop video. That guy, that guy's like insane. Okay, that guy probably should be 5150. Okay, I'm gonna be real with you. Okay, I'm gonna take that L. But like, there's a lot of people that are just like trans that obviously are living like normal lives. They're not a threat to anyone. They're not like a major threat to themselves. It's like we shouldn't try to eradicate that. We should just let them live if they want to. It's a free society. If they want to buy hormones, let them buy hormones as long as they're over 18.
Well, see, now you're equating allowing them to live and then eradicating their ideology as though we can eradicate all their ideology from politics and not and leave them be and let them do what they want.
No, you can't. Not from that speech. Yes. Was what he said was eradicate trans from public life. So the ideology. So what does that mean? He said public life. Well, so that means, let's say I'm a trans woman, and let's say I go through hormones and everything, and I shave my fucking beard and all that shit. And let's say, so I'm wearing, something that looks like feminine clothes. Well, that would be, according to Michael Knowles, and he said this numerous times, he would call that cross-dressing, and he says that falls under obscenity laws, which is not First Amendment protected. So that's his line of logic. I would say that needs to be moderated, because what Michael Knowles is saying is crazy. If Harry Styles wants to wear a dress, I don't like it. I think it's kind of cucked, okay? But I don't think he should be arrested for it. If he wants to do that, I think that's fine. If some trans person wants to be trans, they should be able to buy hormones after the age of 18. They should be able to dress how they want. That's emphatically not what Michael Knowles is saying. He's saying it should be eradicated, not from political life, from public life.
Well, okay, we'll see. Here's another problem is we're also going down this anecdotal evidentiary kind of claims to where certain people are doing certain things. And I guess let's keep it more broad. And I guess I would generally say to that is when it comes to the two ideologies who have been combating against each other, I would say we have far more examples of trans ideology attacking conservative ideology than we have the opposite way around. And so you can say that we're being radical or we need to moderate our speech, but yet there's only one person who's committing violence against the other at disproportionate rates.
Okay, I'm gonna say something, but I'm gonna punt into AGRILEPOLIS if he thinks this is off topic, but I want to punt into something.
I mean, to be fair, the last thing I interrupted was saying you guys can go for, and then you can argue against, and whether he believes you or he thinks you're full of shit.
Oh, that's true.
You got about it's almost been an hour, so I just figured that's a good time to jump in here and say the time frame. And I don't know if you guys want to do closings. We didn't really cover that, but how long do you want for closing?
I don't mind. I don't need a closing.
Yeah, well, probably say 1 to 2. I have nothing prepared, so probably
all right, I'll just say 5 minutes total. So you're good. You guys have been going for about an hour. You got about another 30 minutes or so if you want to keep on. You're not too far off topic. I like how you guys are kind of bringing it back to topic. So carry on.
Okay, well, I'm glad you said that because I might go off into the weeds on this one. But I
will stop you. But you're good.
Good. But let me, Big Soda, give me this grace, okay, on this one. So we're talking about the victims against trans people, okay? And I think if you look, again, this will sound in the weeds, but just everyone give me 2 minutes of grace, okay? So the Uyghur Muslims, right, are obviously, afflicted by the Chinese government. But if you look at stats, the Uyghur Muslims do the majority of terror attacks. And it becomes a bit of a chicken and egg situation on who's causing what. Are the Uyghur Muslims doing terror attacks because they're being oppressed? Or are they, is the Chinese government just clamping down because the Uyghur Muslims are more violent? And so that's my brief thing. I know that sounds like an aside, but I'm tying that back to the transgender thing where it's if you threaten trans people enough and you talk about eradication enough, and some of them don't understand how words work and they don't want to steel man the other side, then they feel it is an existential threat. And so they will possibly react with violence. And I can see that. I can, because if you actually thought, Big Soda, if you thought your group was being genocided, you would probably do extreme actions, right? As anybody would. So I'm saying the right should be more moderate, because why would the right want to inflame a minority population that already has a victim complex? Let's be real, okay? Let's be honest here, right? And why would we want to inflame that and give them more ammo to be oh yeah, the right is actually trying to eradicate me? Why would we want that? Like, to me, that just leads to division and then to stochastic terrorism of like of a certain degree of trans people then doing violence against random fucking Christian schools. How does that benefit anybody?
Because it started moderate and then it's only gotten progressively worse. And our rhetoric for a good while was simply strictly policy. And so I don't know what more you would expect from us when I guess you get to a certain point to where we realize that this is a dangerous ideology and needs to be removed from American society.
So is that are you like 10 toes down on that? You would stick with Michael Knowles. You think that's great rhetoric. You think that isn't going to inflame tensions. It's not going to cause another Charlie Kirk by making trans people think that they're about to be put in camps.
Well, I mean, the question is, are you saying we've had dangerous rhetoric all the way from 2015 that slowly led up to this point? Or are we dealing with a group that no matter what has been convinced that the conservatives are trying to genocide them? The same way the media... No, listen. Okay. It's the same way the media has prompted that conservatives hate African Americans and that conservative hate immigrants. No matter what we do, if we stand on policy, which we have done, every group has been convinced that we are out to get them and take their rights away.
I know. I hear you, brother, but there is a stark difference between just saying you think a group is out to get you and then like feeling it in your bones to where you go out and you do like a Charlie Kirk situation, right? Like that.
Well, it's mental illness.
Right. It's mental illness, but it's a confluence between mental illness and like, you know, actual like bad thoughts, right? You have bad ideology, and then that's mixed with your mental illness, and then that creates...
So it doesn't matter what we do.
No, it does matter, because we can take away at least half of that equation. We can't take away their mental illness, but we can take away the harsh rhetoric and the harsh policies, which is why the right should moderate. Because
which harsh policies?
Well, we talked about this already. Okay, maybe we can punt into something else if you're down.
Yeah, I mean, it's you talked about rhetoric, but you haven't really been naming policies. You just said harsh policies, so let's focus on the harsh policies.
Yeah, let's do it. But to be clear, I am subdivided into policy and rhetoric. Those are I agree. Those are completely different things. I completely.
Well, let's focus on policy, and because we focused heavily on rhetoric.
Okay, so we talked about like the 14th Amendment, but if we wanted to stick on the trans stuff, it's like, what do you think? I guess is the optimal outcome of trans people in, let's say, prisons, sports, all that stuff? What's kind of your, just like lay it out for me? What do you think is the optimal solution from a policy point of view?
That we ignore that this ideology even exists and we operate like we've been operating this entire time.
Okay, and I would say that fucking doesn't work. Okay, that works for sports. That does not work for, let's say, jails. Okay, there are people, and I don't like that they've been on puberty blockers since they were like 12. I don't like that. I'm against that. But there are people who have been on puberty blockers since they're 12 and have been on HRT since they're like 14, and they look like women, at least, you know, to all of my tests. It's like, that looks like a woman to me. Now, you would say then, under the current laws, they would be sent to a male prison. I mean, that's inhumane. Inhumane.
No. It's inhumane. Why is it inhumane?
It's inhumane because if this isn't someone who's just IDs, it's not the self ID of trans stuff, which I think is fucking cucked. But I think if there's someone who, if all of us would look at them and we'd be like, I would call that a she. Like unless I'm proven otherwise, there are people like that. There are some people that like pass so well, especially if they started like puberty blockers and CRT young, that it's like they would look like that. You want to put them in a male prison? Like that is literally inhumane. They're
going to prison. They did a crime.
I don't care if they've done a crime. You shouldn't be like,
you shouldn't send them to the gender, or you shouldn't send them to the prison of their sex.
No.
Why?
If somebody fully looks like a woman, fully in
Who
every
decides
sense.
that? Who decides that?
That's a different question.
Because
but
the
that's
left
not my
says
question.
everybody. And
That's
I
not
say
my question.
Go for it.
That is a judicial hard point to stand on, because then, like, what you're gonna have? I hear your point. You're gonna get to a court and it's gonna be like, well, did they pass enough? But I'm saying, let's say you take the most passing trans person ever that none of us would ever think was born a man. You want to put them into a male prison in Gen Pop? That is inhuman.
Well, see, what happens is when conservatives, let's say Blair Witch decides, or not Blair, Blair White. Yeah. Let's say she decides,
Blair White Project.
Yeah, my bad. If let's say she decides she's going to commit a crime and then she goes to prison, and we're like, oh, it's a lot of people can't tell, so we're going to allow her to go. And let's say a man with a wig, with a mustache comes in. Guess what the left's going to keep advocating for? That Republicans are picking and choosing who they allow to go into these prisons. It's never going to be enough. So why not draw the line at sex and end it at that?
Because drawing the line, I hear
don't commit crimes if you don't want to go to a male prison as a male.
I hear all of your counterpoints, but I would say that, like, it is inhumane. It is inhuman and
how?
Inhumane.
You haven't expressed it. You keep saying that, but you haven't expressed how.
Well, okay. Someone that looks in every way like a woman going into Gen Pop in a maximum security prison, they will be gang raped. Okay, that's just facts. That
happens to men. What's the difference?
It does happen to. It will. Obviously, if you look like a woman, that'll happen to you probably like 100 times more. Can we not agree with that? If you imagine you took a cis female and you shove them in Gen Pop of a male prison, you don't think they're gonna get raped more than the men are? Absolutely, of course. That's just like
it's gonna happen to Tyler Robinson, and he don't even look like a female.
I know, but again, we're talking about like about frequency, right? Like if you put think of the hottest woman you know. And you put them into a prison, they're obviously going to be, essayed more than if they were otherwise, right? Obviously. That's just like, you have to agree with that.
I mean, it's the prison's job to stop it. It's not my job to worry about it.
No, it should be, though. It should
Why?
be. And
these are people who committed crimes. I'm going to send them to prison with the sex that is not given to them, but it is under their DNA strand, and I'm just going to allow it. The same way I would allow a male, let's say a complete male, looks like a male, acts like a female, I'm still going to send him to a male prison. I'm not going to then send him to a female prison just because in his head he has a delusion that he's a female.
Look, that's a fair point. I just want to let you guys know you got about 10 more minutes. That's going to be pretty much the 90-minute mark. I don't know if you guys wanted to keep going for a few more minutes. You just let me know.
Keep going
but there's about 10 minutes on the timer left. So
perfect.
All right.
Okay. I would say it's like you have a percentage of people are going to be more victimized. And I think that is a troubling thing. And it stems down from the policy, because to bring it back to the prompt, my whole prompt was that the right should be more moderate. I think a moderate solution would be that people that have done HRT, let's say for X amount of years, you could figure this out, have been on puberty blockers, whatever the judges rule, they go into protective custody. I don't think that someone who's like 18 that has been on puberty blockers since they were 12 and HRT since they were 14 should be in a male prison. I think that is disgusting. I think we all should agree that's disgusting if you know what happens in prison. It would obviously be a target times a million. That honestly should be like against the Geneva Convention, like for real.
You're asking me to give up ground in my ideology for the sake of compassion. And this is exactly what is also happened with gay marriage. And see, the problem is, hang on. It is. Because now you're asking me to participate in this person's delusion and put them in a place that they do not belong because that is not their sex. And I would compare this to gay marriage, because the problem with gay marriage is it kills what marriage means. Marriage is a religious kind of confound I would say mostly between the Judeo-Christian and Islamic society. I'd add them in there, but it's pretty much an agreement between two people under God. And see, what happened is the left was like, oh, but you have to allow it for everybody. And then they took God away from it. And if I keep conceding ground, my ideology is going to be destroyed. And you're asking me in this instance to concede ground to trans people.
No,
Yes, you are.
No, I'm
you
not.
are.
I'm not.
How are you not? Putting them in the wrong prison putting them in the prison that they listen, putting them in the prison. Listen, putting them in the prison that they identify with is me playing along with their delusion.
I didn't say that though. I didn't say that.
Okay.
I said for people that have been on HRT for X amount of years or have been on puberty blockers since they were 12, they should be in protective custody. We hold that same standard for fucking I don't know how to non-TOS this SOs, people that are on that list, you know, the infamous list, you know. We put that for people who are fucking rats that like, well, you know, that are in witness protection stuff. We put them in protective custody. I'm not saying I'm not at all prison, saying I've never said you should put like Blair White in a female prison. I've never said that. I'm saying that you should put them in protective custody, but I am saying to put them into Gen Pop of a male prison is absolutely barbaric and inhuman. And I will die on that hill.
I mean, it's not, because you're sending them to prison. They did a crime. They will serve their crime with the standard of everybody else. They will not be treated any differently than anybody else.
They will be. You don't think a girl that looks like a biological female is treated differently in prison?
So will a 100-pound man. But that doesn't mean I create special opportunities for him.
I know, but you don't think the woman that looks like, from what we could tell, she passes fully. You don't think that woman is going to be a special target in a male prison?
The same way a 100-pound male with long hair would?
Come on. Well, okay,
you're
Big
just
Soda.
describing severity.
Big Soda, real talk. If you were in prison, who would you rather bang? If, let's say, you had a choice, the 100-pound man or the 100-pound person that, like, from what you know, is a full woman, you know? You don't know about what surgery they had. You have no idea.
Nobody.
I'm saying if you had to.
No, you're putting me in a situation where I have to choose, and what I'm saying, based off my temperament, I would not choose.
I'm saying if you had to, if it was a consensual relationship.
So if there's a gun to my head while I'm in prison, but that doesn't make sense. That's not like that. Just doesn't logically follow, because there would never be. Why would there be a situation?
Is what I'm saying. Obviously, that's what most men would pick. I mean, that's an insane argument if you're saying that most men are going to pick the 100-pound guy versus the 100-pound that so in all perspectives looks like a woman. Obviously, the guys will pick the person who looks like a woman. That's just like on its face.
That's who you would pick.
So I'm not going to come in and like try to trim the weeds, anything. You guys got about 5 more minutes. I don't know if you want to like try to kind of wrap it up in a 5-minute between you two. I know Confluence, you said you're like, I'll only take like a minute. Corey, Big Soda, you said less than that.
Yeah.
But there's about 5 minutes left, and I wasn't going to mess with you guys. You guys are kind of in the weeds though, but I'm not going to come weed eat with only 5 minutes left.
That's fair.
But just remember the topic, and maybe we can nail it down in a few minutes of
hit us back up in like 2 minutes so we can do our closings. But okay, so do you not think that the right should be more moderate? From what I've said, to bring it back to the topic, in everything we've talked about, do you not see that both rhetoric and policy-wise, the right could benefit from being a little more moderate in how they do this shit?
No. I think the short history of the last 10 years have shown that.
And we don't have much time. What's your strongest argument for thinking that we shouldn't moderate a bit more?
My strongest argument would be the problem with I think it comes down to the problem of what I thought the prompt would be. What I thought the prompt would be a moderate conservative is someone who conserves moderately. And so I would argue that no, giving ground to people who want to destroy you, who call you labels in which describe hate and then try and off you and claim that you're taking away people's rights. I'm saying you cannot give up ground to these people, and to adhere to them would be the destruction of your own ideology.
I'd agree with that fully, but I feel like you're conflating then the kind of nihilistic type of like leftoids with just like normal left-leaning people. They're not the same, right?
Can you tell me one person in Congress that's moderately left?
I don't know. Pete Buttigieg. He's like,
no. He believes in he believes along the lines of transing your children. He believes in the lines that Trump is a Yahtzee, a fascist. Like, it's the same ideology that I see preached from everyone else.
But it's not the same.
How?
It's not the same. Like, look at the guy who replaced, what was it? I was gonna say Gavin Newsom. Andrew Cuomo, the Palestinian guy where Andrew Cuomo dropped out. I can't remember his name now. But like, that guy is like far left. Okay, that guy's a danger. How is his policy different than Pete Buttigieg? He is fundamentally different, I think.
How though? What I'm asking.
Well, in his radical policy proposals and his stance on Israel, Gaza, in his social economics, and like in kind of everything.
Well, you're just naming different types of or different categories of policies. You're not giving me specific differences between their policies.
Why? I feel like I kind of am. Like
you're not. You're just naming me categories of policies.
Well, Pete Buttigieg has more of like a nuanced view on Israel, even if he's more pro-Palestine. Whereas this other guy, I wish I knew his name.
They both believe in the trans. They both believe in passing it down to your kids. They both believe that Trump is going around arresting citizens. They both believe that Trump is a Yahtzee, a fascist, who's abusing his power.
Okay,
it's kind of
actually okay. Let's kind of like, we only have like probably a couple minutes left, but like okay, so Destiny is on the left and thinks that like Trump is like doing a bunch of bad stuff and that he's a fascist, right? Hassan also believes that. You would say Hassan is more extreme than Destiny, surely, right? From like a left-right kind of like, divider. Hassan is more crazy.
Are you talking rhetoric or the policies they support? Because the policies they support, not rhetoric. I mean, the only difference I can think of is the Gaza-Israel.
No, come on. Destiny.
Can you name them? Can you name them?
I can name them. Destiny is an avowed capitalist. Hassan wants a socialist society. That's what he wants. He wants.
I would say based on what Destiny supported and what he hasn't called out, he is not an avowed capitalist.
I'm just going on what he says. He says all the time.
Yeah, that's the rhetoric. And see, because I can say I'm a communist. I can keep saying I'm a communist, but if I do not support communist policies, then I'm just saying.
Okay, look, I'm not trying to carry water for Destiny, but Destiny has not supported socialist stuff, right? Like, that's just like where Hassan
Medicare for all. Medicare for all.
That's like a weak, watered down version of socialism.
How?
I'm saying Hassan is like full-throating socialism. He wants the landlord's blood to drip in the streets. He wants every dog to be given the capacity to be electrocuted, okay? Hassan wants a lot of nonsense, okay? That like someone like Destiny does not want, right? There's different levels to this like nonsense. Destiny is full of nonsense. Hassan is full of more nonsense. I feel like we can at least agree on that.
I think you're pointing out rhetoric, but I agree.
And also policy prescriptions.
You haven't named a policy.
I named it. Hassan wants literal socialism. Destiny does not want socialism. That's a very clear policy prescription between those two people.
And I showed you an example of Destiny wanting a socialist policy.
That's not. You can't conflate a socialist policy with socialism. Those are not the same thing. Medicare for all is not the same. Well, one thing, socialism is that there is no capitalism at all. Everything is owned by worker co-ops. There is no such thing as any type of free market anymore. Destiny is those things are like so polar opposites. It's not even funny. Like you can't compare. This is why, like, what was it, Norway, when like Bernie Sanders was saying that he was like socialist, like the Nordic countries, and it was like I think Norway was like, bro, we're capitalist. One of those like Scandinavian countries was like, no, don't tie us into this. But the truth is, they're kind of like democratic socialists. They have a lot of like, they have a lot of like, universal health care. They have a lot of like stuff for people who are disadvantaged, but they still live in a capitalist society. Hassan expressly a million times over has said he wants socialism. You can't compare that to someone who wants some socialist adjacent policies.
Destiny wants the opposite of what Sweden's doing. He wants a higher capital tax rate. He wants to tax people more. It's kind of, I understand. There's some
capitalism. As soon as you're taxing people, that's still capitalism, right?
Well, time out. Not necessarily. He believes in regulation. He believes, I understand. Not inherently, no.
It is by definitionally. It is.
It's not a free market.
It definitionally is capitalism. As long as it's not being, as long as it's not being controlled by the state, and it's not.
It is. It's got regulations. They're telling them what to do. They have control over them.
Yes. Welcome to every capitalist country that exists. You can't find a single one that doesn't have regulation.
Exactly. So that's
a mixed. Is the U.S. socialism? I mean, what the fuck?
No,
what are we talking about right now?
It's a mixed economy.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's my point. Hassan doesn't want a mixed economy, brother. Hassan wants a non-mixed economy. He wants full socialism. Like I don't know. I don't want to like tanky pill you on this, but those people, they want full socialism.
Let's take another minute. Let's take like another minute or two each, and then that's gonna be it because we're carrying way over the mark.
That's fine. I'll probably just end that one by saying, I understand the different degrees of wanting socialist policy, but I mean, you're advocating two people who want the opposite of capitalism, who want more of a mixed economy, and who support socialist policies. And so you're saying that Hassan wants it to more of a degree. I mean, maybe I don't watch their content, but I know both of them have advocated for anti-capitalist policies. So I would say that inherently makes them not capitalist. The same way Trump is not a capitalist.
All right, that was 45 seconds.
Can I go?
Yeah.
Well, fuck that last line. I feel like I don't have enough time to talk about how you're saying Trump is not a capitalist. That's a whole nother debate, I guess. I guess I just want
we can vote it.
It can be.
Yeah, I guess I want to tie this back into my opening that the right should be more moderate. I guess I've shown, I think, in a lot of ways on why they should be, both the rhetoric of Michael Knowles, the policies of the 14th Amendment, and even with Hassan and Destiny. Again, everyone might hate them both, but like obviously Destiny's economic policies are better than Hassan's. That's a low-hanging fruit to, I think, pick and eat thereof. And so so I think the right, both rhetorically and policy-wise, should become more moderate. It would be better for their own party, and it would be better for the left because it just inflames the left and makes them do unhinged stuff.
All right, that was.
Wait, Paulus, you muted.
Yeah, I was gonna say
you muted. You're about to say something. Go
I
ahead.
apologize. I said that sounded pretty good, man. I filled up like 3 pages of notes I took from you guys. I didn't have to stop you guys either, really. So I appreciate that. That was really good.
I'm gonna be honest. We may need a part 2 to that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that there was. I actually think I marked a couple of things that you guys could probably carry on like 2 or 3 other hour-and-a-half long debates. But yeah, that was really good. I enjoyed that.
Well, you don't hate me, Confluence, now do you?
Oh no, bro, I had a fucking great time. I had a great time.
That's a good one. We'll definitely have about 3 or 4 more of these in the short future.
We absolutely should.
I just want to point out that this can prove that you can have a good time and also debate with somebody and get your ideals out without having to like explode and get angry. This is really good.